What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. 357 Sig testing continued. Today we are on number 8, another Underwood offering as promised. Test number 6 was 115 grain jacketed hollow point. Test number 7 was 124 grain jacketed hollow point. They both lived up to their box velocities. Now let's see what the 147 grain jacketed hollow point will do. This one is supposed to be clocking in an advertised velocity of 1,260 feet per second. And like I said, that's a 147 grain projectile, so pretty heavy, should be a pretty comfortable shooter, but still should get the job done going at that velocity. Certainly, in my opinion, these first two offerings did not disappoint. Keep in mind, what the 357 Sig is a pretty much a hyped up 9mm, so anybody out there that likes 9mm should really love 357 Sig. It is a .355 projectile, so you get a lot more velocity, therefore some of these bullets can become a lot more capable. Now, if you get too high velocity, sometimes they would be what you would call fail, maybe, as in they don't do their intended opening up and their dramatic wound cavity thing like it's supposed to be spaced out properly. They might grenade themselves if they go too fast, but then you can get into the solid copper things, and we'll be doing that next. So for test number 9 and 10, make sure you're sticking around. We're going to get into the extreme penetrators and extreme defenders, also from Underwood. For now though, let's go through our routine test with this 147 grain jacketed hollow point. Keeping consistent with these 5 Underwoods, test number 6 through 10, we're definitely going to keep the same firearms. So we have the Smith & Wesson M&P 1.0 chambered in 357 Sig. That's a 4 1/4 inch barrel. And then we have the Sig Nightmare. That's a 5-inch 1911. They perform pretty similarly with 357 Sig as far as velocity, but you do get a little bit of a difference. And then you do see a little difference on gel, at least with the last one that we shot, the 124 grain. Where they can definitely show a difference sometimes is on target, because these M&Ps and these stock triggers, sometimes they're not the best. They have nice sights, 3-dot white sights. That's how I like any of my firearms to be set up with the iron sights, but this one's just not the greatest as far as accuracy. You can get it in there, but the 1911s usually do really, really well. So let's see how these two do today with this ammunition specifically. Let's get an average velocity, let's figure out foot-pounds, then let's do what most people are waiting for, the gel testing. We have two 20-inch 10% clear ballistics gel blocks for a total of 40 inches. We shoot for practical accuracy when we do our testing on the paper. We don't want to sit at a bench rest, sit at a table, anything like that. We want to know what the guns actually feel like under normal recoil. Testing explained, let's get to shooting. Just so you can get a good look at what that projectile looks like, we have 5 loaded up. We are 20 feet off that B8 target, 15 feet off that chronograph. Let's see what we can do here. We did touch the X-ring. We have 1248. We are touching the X-ring again at 1239. So the 1248 was closer to the 1250 on the box, but still not bad. I pulled that one over to the right a little bit. I think that was my grip. We are at 1237. That one felt a little bit better. It's still touching the X-ring. We are at 1223. That's some sparky stuff. I don't know if you saw it, but that one was really sparky out of the barrel. We are in the X-ring. We actually touched the X on that one. We are at 1255. So it's getting the velocity that it needs to get out of only the 4 1/4 inch barrel. That's pretty cool. So not a bad group for an M&P at all. I pulled that one over just a little bit. Not a big deal. It's still within the defensive zone right there, what I call the hand size zone for anybody that doesn't know how big a B8 target is. Should definitely be able to get in there, at least standing still at 20 feet away. Out of that firearm, these rounds feel very manageable. I always like the 147 grain in the 357 Sig. The light rounds are good too. They get speedy, but the 147, I like them for range rounds, but also obviously they make them for defense. That's a good group. We'll see what they do in gel, but for now, let's see what the 1911 does on paper. All right, moving up to a 5-inch barrel in the 1911, maybe we will surpass what the box says. We're a little bit above the X circle. We are at 1270, so yes, we did surpass. That That one's touching the X-ring at 1267. Now out of this gun, this feels very nice. I know it looks like it might get a little jumpy in my hand. It is 357 Sig, so 10mm 357 Sig. They do have more recoil, but it's definitely manageable, and it actually feels very nice out of this firearm. .1254. I shot a little high on that one. In the X-ring somewhere in there at 1267. And another one somewhere in there in the same grouping at 1264. Lock back on an empty. Let's go take a look. So with this ammo in this lighting today, here's my group. Not too bad for a 4-shot group there, and then somehow I jumped up on that one. That was definitely probably me. But out of both of these handguns, like I said, definitely within the defensive requirements. All right, 4 1/4 inch Smith & Wesson M&P 357 Sig in the gel. We are 15 feet off the gel and chronograph. Let's see how we do. We had 1263. .1263, and we smacked it with enough room for the other hit. Let's see what it looks like from the side. Wow, that thing got in there a little bit. Let's get the tape measure out. All right, I would say that's a very cool and consistent wound channel all the way down there. Remember, this is a 20-inch block, so we have a little piece of shed lead right there. No big deal, but that's a pretty good entry wound. It didn't do any kind of grenading effect. These are going slower than, let's say, the 115 grains. There's a little stray piece of lead right there, but no big deal. That main wound channel right there, that what I call the initial entrance wound cavity, would be about 6 or 7 inches, and then it just gets down to its normal driving hollow point type of wound cavity. It has a pretty good amount of bounce back. I would say that that thing goes to 18.5 inches at least for the visible part. Sometimes there's a little bit you can't see until you cut into it, but bounces back, settles right at, I'd say, at about 17 inches. And it's facing backwards. You can see the copper puddles are moved back. However, the lead has definitely been shed off of it. So let's take a look from the top, but I would say overall that's a very nice looking wound channel, and I would say that got the adequate depth. So awesome, good job on the 147 grain. Wow, nice. As you can see, it looks pretty much the same from the top. Moving down, we do have that shed lead right about there. A little bit of burning or streaking, whatever it is from that lead coming apart. And then it settles down here backwards with a little bit of a bounce back. Doesn't look too much different from the side, just a couple different things going on. But overall, it's hard to see without putting my shadow over it. I'd say that's pretty darn good. All right, let's kick it up a notch with the 5-inch barrel, 1911 style. Remember, 1911s have magical powers. That feels so nice out of this gun. I'm telling you, that's like shooting a 9mm for sure, but this is behaving much more hyper and much more awesome than your typical 9mm. We have 1275 on the chronograph. .1275, and our shot placement was good for these purposes. Taking a look at the side, we have pretty good consistency, including that one little streak right there that came off the top. Let's see if I can focus in. We got that one there and then that one there. That's pretty cool. Not a huge difference, but let's straighten this up and let's take a look for real. Let's see, I'm gonna have to separate these out. All right, right there, I think that's pretty good. So, pretty good initial wound cavity. Again, I think they mimicked each other. They're always gonna look just a little different from the different angles, but I think they're pretty much the same, including throwing out that little piece. They both lost lead on the way down. They both ended up coming down to their skinnier wound tracks. Let me try to refocus there. However, this one did land deeper. This one landed at I'd say 18.75 inches, maybe 19 inches, but it poked back. It did eventually make it to about 19.25 inches, but it's resting right before that. So that one did make it a little bit farther with that velocity, and Looks pretty good to me. It's opened up again. This one's facing down where the other one's facing back. Let's take a look from the top. But darn nice wound track. I really like this. This is good stuff. All right, there you go. Side by side, that looks pretty cool. Like I said, they're pretty comparable all the way down. That one out of the M&P, it seems to look just a little bit different. It's just the way that the light's hitting it. They both shed about the equal amount of material, I think. And they both had pretty much the same end result there for final wound track. You did have the different landing spots and different landing orientations, but both did a really good job. Let's get them dug out. All right, here we have the one that came out of the M&P, and here's the one out of the 1911. Both look pretty similar. This one threw just a little bit of a weird piece, no big deal. Let's flip these over and see what they look like. Wow, those tuck back pretty nice. I like it when the copper tucks back. That looks pretty cool. It definitely lost a lot of the lead that was attached to those pedals on both of these. Let's see what they ended up weighing in the end. Let me make sure that that was zeroed out. We got 124.3 out of the M&P round, and the 1911 threw one that ended up with 127.8. Now, I don't know if we really count this. This is such a tiny little tab here, but I'll go ahead and measure the 1911 one first, because that's going to be bigger based just on that little wing that came off, but I already kind of smushed it a little bit. That's 0.606, so that's the biggest projectile width so far after recovery we've got out of this jacketed hollow point ammunition. But if I squeeze it just a little more, it'll come down, or if I come from another angle, if I can ever get it to stay, 0.517, that's a little bit more realistic. 0.503, that's more realistic. And then out of the M&P, we ended up with 0.528, 527, 526, something like that, 0.506. Maybe the widest part right there would be 0.533. Check it on one more point, 0.513. So you get the idea of that. Well, there you go, 147 grain. It's very comfortable to shoot. You saw what it did in gel. I'm not going to see the slow motion until we're editing, but you got to see it. Accuracy is there enough. I did like the 115 grain for accuracy pretty good. I would encourage you to watch all three of these tests, because you might want different parameters for your, or different ways for your ammunition to perform. But they're all pretty good in my opinion. This one, I would say, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. It's my favorite. Let us know what you think in the comments, what you think of this ammunition, what you think about this test. Do you use this stuff? Do you use any of the grain weight variants, or do you stick to other types? Thank you to everybody that watches these videos, gives thumbs up, shares things around. It's awesome. Thank you to the Patreon members and the channel members. You guys are all awesome. Thank you for watching this video, and until we see you next time, stay safe, have fun, and keep shooting.